Welcome back. Thanks for those that's joining us. It's been a marathon day and a very exciting day, but I think the speakers has been so great that the time is flying by that we don't even know that it's the last session for the day. Roy, we can't actually see your face, so we can see your presentation. Oh, there's smallish, you can see us. Yes, okay, great, good. We're looking forward to your discussion on something I'm very passionate about is diversity and inclusion, the new currency of talent, and are you ready to lead it? It's a very, very interesting topic and something that I'm very passionate about. But please, can I just introduce you to the delegates?
Sure.
Roy Gluckman is an exceptionally skilled and passionate South African with over 8 years of experience in diversity and inclusion. He's a keynote speaker, a program and workshop builder, a facilitator and director. He's a diversity and inclusion strategist and consultant, and passionate about national building, honest yet tough engagements and social cohesion for the achievement of sustainable organizations and a better world. Sounds very, very wonderful, and looking, yes, very, very interested. So thanks. I'm not going to take up any of your time anymore. I'm going to give over to you, and looking forward to your discussion.
Wonderful. Thanks. Okay, good. Well, thank you for having me today on this Wednesday here in Johannesburg. It's beautiful. We had like a minute of rain, so we're all very excited. I'm going to share my screen. So you're not going to see much of my face, but I have got the little icon there for you. You will see me there in your top left side. You're more than welcome to kind of watch that. But I'm going to use my presentation. So we don't have a lot of time today, and we have a lot that we need to cover, right? This is going to be a bit of a crash course in diversity and inclusion. So firstly, thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here. It's wonderful to be engaging with you. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you're from. I don't know what your organization looks like, but I do know that what I'm about to speak to you all about is incredibly, incredibly valuable, important, pertinent, and useful. So I only have an hour, which, like I said, is not enough to discuss everything. So it's going to be quite quick, quite choppy. Please do, I'll try my best to leave time for questions and answers. Really going to try my best. I'm going to be looking at my phone because that's how they're going to be sending me some of the questions. But let's jump in immediately. So thank you so much. So I'm from an organization called Cohesion Collective, which is the spinning wheel you see in front of you. And Cohesion Collective is essentially an equality, diversity, and inclusion consulting and training firm. So this is the work that we do all day, every day, right? Thinking about these topics, nation building, social cohesion, all of it. And I'm going to present to you today essentially why this conversation should not be the last session of the day, but the first. Why this is incredibly and will become increasingly more important, not only for small individual sole proprietor practitioners, all the way up to big corporates, right? For everyone. This is what's so critical about this. This is applicable for everyone. So I love to start off with this question. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, for the last 24 months, every single conference that I've been invited to speak at has been premised on this fact, that our world is somehow changing. Our world is changing. Our world is changing. Our world is changing. Maybe even this conference here has been set on the premise that our world is somehow changing and we need to be ready for it, right? So I was invited to speak at a conference last year called Raising Boys and Girls with the Skill Set for a Changing World, right? Raising boys and girls with the skill set for a changing world. So I get there, they said, Roy, come speak at our conference, and we want you to open up the conference in the morning. I said, fantastic, happy to do that, right? And I get up there, we have teachers, parents, schools execs, 500 people, right, in this big, big, big hall. And I put this image on, and I'm like, guys, the changing world, right? And everyone's like, yes, this is the changing world. Look at all these millennials. They're also disconnected, but they're all hyper-connected. Yes, this is the changing world. And I'm like, yeah, right. This really captures this idea of the changing world. Everyone's getting really kind of excited. And I said, well, if this is the idea of a changing world, then how do we explain this? Right? That if this is the changing world, then how do we explain this? And I think everyone kind of got a little bit quiet. And I think the conference organizers were like, ooh, okay, where's he going with this? I said, no, don't worry about it, right? Maybe this is the changing world. Betty out of the kitchen, into the workforce, in a cute pantsuit, ready to kind of be all independent and stuff. And I said, okay, well, if this is the changing world, then how do we explain this, right? That happened here in South Africa, 2018, on Mother's Day. For those of you who can't read, it says they're gifts to Wow Mom. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. And for those of you who can't see, it's an amazing prize on Jack. Our world is somehow changing. So my question to you, as is always my question, and I've been asking this question for years now, and now in COVID, it seems more relevant than ever. If our world is changing so much, what exactly is changing? Because here's what happens, right, when we encounter change. Two things happen. Either we say, wow, that's such amazing change. I support that change. Like, share, donate, cool, happy. You guys keep doing that change. I'm kind of busy. I've got a deliverable, so I can't be there, but I really support it, right? It's a stepping back. Or I'm like, that change is terrifying. I'm really, really scared of that change. I don't like it. I'm scared. I'm going to pull back. I'm going to surround myself with safety. Again, it's pulling away. Because for me, I don't believe that our world is changing that much, right? At all, in fact. I think our world is just becoming more sophisticated at representing the idea of change, or the veneer of change, the exterior of change. That really all we're doing is repainting the walls of our house a different color, and we're like, wow, it's a whole new different house. It's not though, right? It's the same house. It's the same house with the same structure. We just painted it a different color, right? So if you are excited by the color, you're like, wow, what a fantastic color, right? I really like that. Or I'm like, I'm terrified of that color. I really, really hate it. Either way, nothing's really changing. It's just the external. Don't get so stressed about it. But really what we should be asking is, if we really want change, right? What is the change that we want to drive? How do we want to drive it? Where do we want to change it to, rather than being passive? Because like I said, the only thing that I think is changing is just the color of the walls, not the systems and the structures behind the scenes. But there are these movements of change, right? These elements, these social movements, which give us the idea of change, right? So we have marriage equality in the States, and we think this is an incredible movement of change, or this devastating movement of change. It doesn't matter which side of the spectrum you are. So a great color or a terrible color. We have #MeToo. We think this is this incredible movement of change, or this devastating movement of change. We look at Black Lives Matter, right? And we're like, this is an incredible movement of change, or this terrifying movement of change. Either way, right? Either way, it's really important for us to realize that all these movements are not these incredible movements of change, breaking down the house, rebuilding it. No, right? all these movements are to get people who've been historically excluded to point zero, the starting point that other people have been at for years. That marriage equality is not this incredible movement of change. It's just really to get LGBT people to point zero, the starting point that straight people have been at for centuries, and that is to marry the person that you love. That #MeToo is not this incredible movement of change. It's just really to get women to point zero, the starting point that men have been at for centuries, and that is call out to perpetrator, oh, and something actually happens, someone actually listens. That Black Lives Matter is not this incredible movement of change. It's just really to get people of color, particularly Black people in the States, to point zero, the starting point that white people have been at, and that is not to be perceived to be dangerous before even getting to know that individual. These are not these incredible movements of change. They're just movements to get people who've been historically excluded to the starting point. So when we come into organizations, when we talk about your organization, or society in general, the schools that your children go to, we see Black faces, brown faces, gay faces, women in leadership, disabled faces. We get so excited. Right. Oh, look at this change. But that's just the starting point, point zero, where we should have always been. What we need to now discuss, right, is what does an organization, what does a school, what does a society look like beyond zero? Where it's not just about getting married. It's about feeling safe to walk down the street holding your same-sex partner's hand. That is what real change is. And I think we all need to be involved in that change, right? Even COVID, I'm sure you're tired of speaking about it. I'm absolutely tired of speaking about it. It's not this incredible movement of change. If anything, all COVID has done, it's not a system changing event, but a system revealing event. It has shown us the inequality that exists within society. It has forced us to look at the inequality that exists. Not a system changing event, a revealing event. We now sit and say, what is the change that we want, right? When we think of diversity, right, this is just a Google image search of diversity, right? Type in diversity into Google images, this is what you get. And I want you to just look at these 4 pictures, and just for a moment, I'm going to ask you a question. What comes up for you? What reactions do you have to these images? Just think for yourself, what reactions do you have to these Google image search of diversity? What reactions do you have, right? Just for a moment, just think, what reactions do you have? You know, what reactions do you have to this, right? We are the world, Simunya, we are one, stronger together, all of these elements. And we have a range of reactions, right? People can say, yes, stronger together, strength and diversity, unity, beauty, rainbow nation, yeah. On the other hand, it's like, this kind of looks old. This is the stuff we put on our marketing things. This is a dream. This isn't really happening. We always have some fantastic submissions. On the top left picture there, we have people say, there's the black hand there, but it's not in. It's in, but it's not in. Bottom left, we always have, but why do only the white people have electronics? Whatever the case is, we all have reactions to this. But really, for me, when we're thinking about diversity, this is my reaction. That diversity is in fact difficult. It is hard work. It is continual work. It is frightening. It is painstaking. It is practice. It's not, put different people in the room and we're all just going to have a fantastic time and innovate. That's why I'm not going to talk about the benefits of diversity, because that's easy to go and research. I want to talk about how difficult it is and the difficulties that we find coming together and why it is so important. So please, for a moment, do not think that diversity is just, put difference together and it's hard work. There is a element that exists within the South African space at the moment. It's not only South Africa, but there is a deep sense of voicelessness when it comes to discussions around race, gender, transformation, inclusion, privilege, right? This deep sense of voicelessness, which is this huge barrier to achieving these wonderful things, right? All of us feel voiceless. So white people feel completely voiceless when it comes to conversations around race, privilege, inclusion, transformation. Why do you think that is? Just for a moment, just to think for yourself. Why do white people feel completely voiceless when it comes to these conversations of race, privilege, transformation, social cohesion, all of these elements? The most obvious ones will be, maybe I feel guilty, maybe I feel a bit of shame, maybe it's not my time to speak. But really, the real reason why white people feel voiceless is because we're scared that if we say anything wrong, or our tone is wrong, or if we mess up, or if we ask a tough question, whatever the case may be, right, or if we perceive to not be part of the transformation agenda, then we will be labeled as racist. Yes, and we know what happens with racists. Their wife gets pulled out of their job. We know the issues, right? So we know that for white people, that we enter this room and we're like, I'm definitely not saying anything because I feel totally voiceless. I don't want to be seen as racist. I'm not going to do anything. I'll just smile and nod at Roy. Right? We feel totally voiceless. Here's the thing though. Black South Africans, particularly in organizations, in your organizations, also feel, in this association even, also feel completely voiceless. Why do you think that is? Why do Black people feel totally voiceless when it comes to conversations of race, privilege, transformation, inclusion, all of these elements? Just think about it. Why? Why do you think? Black people feel completely voiceless around these conversations because if they say anything, right, that is there to critique leadership or to call for transformation, they're seen as the troublemaker. You must be grateful for being here, right? Don't spoil the family lunch. This one's the little Julius Malema, right, an EFF supporter. You must be grateful to be here. You're the troublemaker. So Black people know the target that gets put on their back, the labels that get attached to them. So white people are scared they're going to be called racist, and we know what happens to racists. And Black people are scared that they're going to be seen as troublemakers, right, as rebels, and we know what happens to them. Voicelessness on both sides. Then we look at Indian and colored voices. When was your voice ever of value anyway, right? You're not Black enough, you're not white enough, you were fine then, you're fine now. So even Indian and colored South Africans are like, you know what, let the Blacks and whites have their zebra conversation. We'll just be here, not saying anything because our voice is of no value anyway. And now we found ourselves in this position in South Africa 2020, where all of us feel completely voiceless. We're talking, just not together. It's too scary. It's too scary to talk together. We're not ready. And I'm here to encourage us to look at this voicelessness and say, yeah, I do feel voiceless. And for us to begin to practice this voice. Why do we want to practice this voice? For this reason here. Social cohesion, right, is a very South African term, and it speaks to something which we've constantly been trying to drive for, the sense of social cohesion. But what does it actually mean? Here's the definition of social cohesion. It's beautiful. Listen to this. Social cohesion is the extent to which people are cooperative within and across group boundaries of race, gender, difference, sexual orientation, language, culture, religion, all those things, without coercion or purely self-interested motivation. So social cohesion is the extent to which we cooperate with people who are different with us without being forced to. Right? Now, on this very arbitrary curve I've got here, right? We call this the social transformation curve. Point X being not a lot of social cohesion. We don't cooperate across difference without being forced to at all, right? Point Y being 2010 FIFA World Cup social cohesion. Stronger Together 2019 Springboks winning the World Cup social cohesion, right? We cooperate across difference because we love to, because we find value in it, right? How far do you think South Africa has come in terms of social cohesion? From point X, not very far, to point Y, we've cracked it. Just plot for yourself. Take a moment. Just plot for yourself. How far do you think we've come? The extent to which we cooperate within and across group boundaries of difference without being forced to. So I would guess, given that I do this a lot, and we do this with grade 8s all the way up to senior executives and board members, and literally 10 times out of 10, this is where people put us. That there is a sense in South Africa that we haven't shifted that far as it relates to social cohesion. And there could be many reasons. Some people say, oh, the government isn't driving it. Or some people say the media isn't driving it. Or some people say we're not learning it in the school. Whatever the case is, it doesn't matter. The sense is that we haven't shifted far as South Africans. And partly the voicelessness that we feel is what keeps us at that low point, because we are not able to communicate and to talk around these things. But social cohesion is what we're trying to drive for. And it is all of our responsibility to do it, right? All of our responsibility to move from that X to Y, not the governments, not the media, not our business leaders, me and you, right? Me and you. So that's the broad context in which we exist within South Africa, a really low sense of social cohesion. And this is what I need to now impart as an information. Whether you like it or not, this low level of social cohesion is coming into your organization and is coming into your one-on-one relationships with individuals. Whether you like it or not, this low level of social cohesion is in your spaces, in your teams, in your units, in your organizations. Because organizations and relationships are not separate to the South African feeling. It comes into our space. So if this is a problem for us, this low level of social cohesion in South Africa, it should be a problem for our organizations, and it is. Why is it? Because there's this fantastic model that this researcher at MIT in the States did, and he called it the core cycle of success. You're going to help me out here, right? And he did research for years on small, medium, large organizations, and he went to crack the code of successful organizations, right? And this is the research, right? This is the findings of the research. He said this: all organizations need, in order to be successful, to grow, to develop, is to have quality results, right? That feels totally obvious. The research was categorical. We need quality results in order to grow, to be sustainable, all of these wonderful things. And then Daniel Kim said, okay, well, if quality results is so important, what do we need to ensure quality results? So maybe just think for yourself. What do you think we need in order to ensure the best quality results? Did the research. Uncontroversially, we need the best quality actions. So quality actions determine the quality of our results. The best actions you take, the best results you get, right? The more you go to the gym, the better your summer body is going to be. Actions, results, uncontroversial, right? But then he went a step further. He said, well, if quality results or quality actions are so important, what determines the best quality actions? Think for yourself. What do you think we need in order to have the best quality actions to ensure the best quality results? So he went in, he did the research, right? And it gets a little bit deeper, right? It gets a little bit deeper, more varied. And at the end of the day, he found that the quality of our thinking determines the quality of our actions and the quality of our results. Again, the best thinking we do, the best actions we're going to take, the best results we're going to get, right? Uncontroversial. He went a step further and he said, well, if the quality of our thinking is so important, what do we need to ensure the best quality thinking? Again, go for it. What do you think ensures the best quality of our thinking? The research got really deep here, quite varied. Sorted through all the data, did some research, went deeper, and he found that the quality of our relationships determines the quality of our thinking, the quality of our actions, and the quality of our results. Now, here's the thing. Organizations, you, teams, are only interested in actions, results, very binary. And we are not spending enough time thinking about thinking and spending time building quality relationships. You know, even me and my organization, I'm like, sure, I just don't feel like I've got time to think anymore. Actions, results. And we need to shift our awareness to say we actually need better quality thinking, but more importantly, we need better quality relationships. Now, we at Cohesion Collective, we take this a step further and we say, if the quality of our relationships is so important, what do we need in order to ensure the best quality of our relationships? Just have a moment, take a think. What do you think we need in order to ensure the best quality relationships? Just think about it for a moment. The quality of our trust. The quality of our trust determines the quality of our relationships, thinking, actions, and results. Now, this should make us a little bit worried, because if we as organizations, as individuals, as high-performing teams want the best results, we need the best trusts. Except here's the thing. In South Africa, we have been taught not to trust one another. We do not start from a position of neutral trust. You know, everyone always says trust is earned. Rubbish. Trust is given automatically to some and not to others. People who look like me in my body, I'm automatically given trust. I'm automatically seen as safe, competent, educated, trustworthy. People who don't look like me, Black men, if you think about what the black male body represents, does not automatically represent trust, safety, competence. It's got a whole other meanings, right? Unsafety, EE candidate, which is loaded, right? All of these elements. We see a woman in this field in particular, like, maybe she's just the PA, or, I hope she doesn't. All of these things is we're not giving trust automatically. We give trust to some and not to others. Given our history. So why is inclusion important? Because inclusion works in the quality of our trust, tries to build trust across those differences, tries to build social cohesion, work through our own biases, work through our own voicelessness, so we can have the best quality trusts, relationships, thinkings, actions, results. Diversity and inclusion is not this nice to have fluffy, let's talk about our feelings. No, it is critical to achieving your organizational strategic objectives. 100%. We need to work on the quality of our trust, because we at Cohesion Collective see organizations as houses, and this is our gift to you. I want you to see your organization as a house. And if you're a sole proprietor, then you are going to become the house, right? You're not separate if you're a sole proprietor. This is not for huge organizations alone. Small, tiny, medium, doesn't matter. I need you to see your practice, your business as a house. Like every house, there are 3 layers to this house. The first layer is, of course, the foundations. And like all foundations, good organizations, sustainable organizations need a foundation of trust, right? Fantastic. Then, much like a house, every organization needs a little bit of TLC, not tender loving care. In this case, we're talking talent, we're talking leadership, we're talking culture. That in order for you to have strong, growing organizations, you need a strong talent pipeline, good people, committed people, right? We need strong leadership, empathetic leadership, inclusive leadership. We need a good culture where people can speak up and express and innovate and fail and try again. And that all sits on the foundation of trust. And only then, the third element of our house is what we call the comfort structure, or this is when we get inclusion. All these elements, BBE, affirmative action, gender empowerment legislation, are just the trusses in the house, but inclusion make it at home. They make it comfortable. Inclusion is not an input. We don't do inclusion and diversity. No, we do trust. We do talent, leadership, and culture. And when we do that right, people feel included. But now to complicate it, right? Your house, your organization exists on a foundation, on the bedrock being the South African soil. And when we think about our history in South Africa, a history of exclusion, a history of racism, sexism, homophobia, of discrimination, of colonization, of slavery, of legislative segregation, this is the bedrock of South Africa. All of these elements come into your organization, whether you like it or not. They seep into the foundation of your organization, even as an individual, and they change that trust from trust to mistrust. And this mistrust within our foundation seeps into our talent, leadership, and culture spaces, seeps into our inclusion spaces, and starts creating a sense of exclusion for some and inclusion for others. Because remember, like I said, the low social cohesion in South Africa comes into your organization. Even if you're just a 2-person show, it comes in, right? So what I need to say to everyone today is that we're not starting from a foundation of trust. We are actually starting from a foundation of mistrust that affects talent, leadership, and culture, and ultimately the employee experience of inclusion. We're going to talk about why inclusion is so important in today's session, right? So whether you like it or not, exclusion and our history is coming into your organization, and it's affecting our trust, which affects our relationships, thinkings, actions, and results. So diversity and inclusion, this new buzzword D&I that we're talking about, or EDI, equality, diversity, and inclusion, is really there to try and look at some of these elements and to improve them within your space so you can get the best quality results. I'm going to break these things down for you super quickly. Right, so EDI, equality, diversity, and inclusion. This is the acronym that's used. But really, I don't like the way that is structured. So I rejig it, and we're going to talk about DIE, diversity, inclusion, and equality. And today we're baking the DIE pie. Okay, the DIE pie. Very morbid, but so fantastic and easy to remember. D, the diversity are the ingredients to our pie, right? It's flour, it's water, it's what we're going to put in, it's the filling, it's the pastry, all of that, right? So here we are, we go to the shops and we buy all of our ingredients, we got our packet, we come home, right, into our organization, to our home, we put all the ingredients on the kitchen counter, we go to our room and we come back a couple of hours later and we're like, where's the pie? We're so shocked, where's the pie? We think that just buying the ingredients is going to make the pie. No, it's not, right? We absolutely need ingredients, but we then have to we have to include, we have to take those ingredients and put them together in a way that makes sense, thinking about the methodology, putting effort in, researching, putting in that work, not just putting the diversity on the table and saying, okay, cool, we got black faces, brown faces, disabled faces, now it's going to be inclusive. No, we now have to put it together and work on it and labor and plan and design all of that, right? So I is the methodology, putting the ingredients together. And E is the equality, is the baking of the pie, the outcome. We're not going to talk about E today. We don't have time. We're just going to talk about D and I, diversity and inclusion, because all diversity are the things that make us different. Race, gender, sexual orientation, language, culture, religion, marital status, pregnancy, nationality, culture, beliefs, value system, education, politics, HIV status, mental health. Endless, right? Endless. And because it's endless, it makes this kind of difficult. But here's what I need to say to you. These ingredients that make us us, these differences, there's nothing wrong with our differences. Absolutely nothing wrong with being black or being gay or being white for that matter. What is wrong necessarily with diversity is not the difference itself, but the value judgments that we've been taught to attach to those differences. To use computer language, it's the coding that we read in differences. That if I see a certain color skin, without me even consciously being aware, I've been taught to read it in a certain way. Oh, danger, cross the road, watch your purse. I see a woman coming into the boardroom. I'm just stereotyping here, right? Or maybe she's going to take the coffee order. She's definitely not running this meeting. We've all been coded to see difference or to attach a value to the difference. Oh, he's got a little fluffy hand. He must be gay. We do this all the time. So there's nothing wrong with our differences. There's everything wrong with the value judgments that we have been taught. You and I have been taught to attach to those differences. And really the work that you and I need to be doing, all of us need to be doing, because this is not just about white straight men, hey? I hope you guys know this. We all have work to do because we've all grown up in a society that has taught us that some people are better than others. Fact. Some religions are better than others. Some cultures are better than others. Some nationalities are better than others. Europeans are better than Africans. Whatever it is. We've all grown up in that society. We all have these value judgments that attach to those ingredients, to that difference. So don't for a moment think that this is about one person or one group of people. It's for all of us. So diversity, there's nothing wrong with our differences, but everything is wrong with the value judgments, the coding that we attach to those differences, right? So very often people say, but Roy, we don't want to talk about race. We don't want to talk about our differences. We are one race, the human race. We must just look forward and just be the rainbow nation. No, that's just not going to work, right? Because our differences were used to exclude in the past, we now need to talk about our differences as a way to unblock and to look at the value judgments that attach to those differences. This weird thing where we have to now talk about our differences, not ignore them in order to uproot the value judgments that have been embedded. So be brave. Let's talk about our differences. Let's talk about our race, gender, sexual orientation. Let's feel uncomfortable. Let's ask questions. Let's unpack these value judgments. The D, that diversity part of the pie. Then we go to the I part. I'm just taking my time. Oof, I do not love time. The inclusion part, right? Putting it all together. This is the most interesting and the most difficult. I would like for you to do a very difficult or challenging exercise. So it's really, really important. I would like for you to take a breath and to sit back in your chair. And if you are in an organization, no matter how big it is, 2 people, 100,000 people, doesn't matter, just to sit for a moment and to imagine, were your organization to be put in human form in one body, what would your organization look like? So to personify your organization, were your organization to be one person, you can even think about what this association would be. Were this association or your organization to be one person, what would this person look like? Now, it's not who it is you want your organization to look like or this association to look like, it's who it is today. It's not about who makes up the organization, it's what the space feels like, right? Who are you thanking when you get paid at the end of the month? Who are you greeting in the morning? Were your organization to be a person, what race or ethnicity would they be? What gender would they be? What sexual orientation would they be? Gay, straight, lesbian, bisexual, transgender? Would they be physically able or physically disabled? What religion would your organization practice were to be a person? Were your organization to be a person, what language would they speak? And finally, were your organization to be a person, what income bracket would they be? Lower, middle, upper income. Just think for yourself. Were your organization to be one person, not who it is you want it to be, who it is today, what would their race, gender, sexual orientation, ability, language, religion, income be? No value judgments. Just think about it. And if you're struggling with this, I need you to ask yourself, why am I struggling with this? Some people find this incredibly easy, and I'm going to talk to you why, right? Here's our research. We literally do this every single time we do this work. It is the starting point of talking about quality trust. This is what we get 10 times out of 10. In South Africa and actually in other jurisdictions, people describe and personify their organizations as a white male, straight, who's able-bodied, Christian-ish. So they kind of like, they grew up in a Christian home, but they don't really go to church anymore. English, Afrikaans speaking, and upper income. Literally, 10 times out of 10, this is how people describe their organization. As this white, straight man who's able-bodied, Christian-ish, English, Afrikaans speaking, upper income. Now, let's talk about this. Whether or not this is how you describe your personification is irrelevant. We're going to use this as the example, the research that we've got. There's 2 things I need to land. Remember, we're talking about inclusion. The first one is this. This person, this white, straight, able-bodied Christianish man, is not a bad person. Are you hearing me? You listening to me? This man, this person is not a bad person. As white men, we have internalized our own badness. There is so much media around our own badness. We look at Donald Trump, we're like, okay, we know, oh, I'm not that type of white person. Oh, I've got black friends. We get sick because we've internalized our own badness. And I'm here to tell you, you are not a bad person, but we do have a responsibility. So it's not about badness, it's about responsibility. So your organization, whenever we do this with senior leadership, they freak out to personify their organization because they've internalized their personification that this person is bad, that this person must fall, that we must replace this with a black gay woman, and now we've transformed. What nonsense. Not a bad person, but there is a deep responsibility that this individual has to building and understanding trust. The second thing, and the most important thing, is this. Remember, I said that your organizations are houses, and I need you to see your organization as a house, even if it's just two of you in your organization. Because organizations are houses, I need you to see the personification of your organization as the owner of the house. And I need you to see your offices, even if now it's a virtual office, as this person's house, right? Now for me, Roy, guys, I grew up in this house. This white straight, this is my father. I grew up in this house. I know this house, right? So were I to come into your organization, either as a client or a consultant or as an employee, this man's going to stand in front of him and say, Roy, welcome, make yourself at home. And you know what? I know exactly what that means. I know how to communicate. I know how to navigate. I know how to break the rules just enough not to get into trouble. I know all the rules because I grew up knowing the rules, right? I know to build relationships. I know everything about this house because this is literally my house. The movement from my actual home into my work home is seamless. Now, for my colleague Dominic, who's a black male, he did not grow up in a house like this. In fact, quite the opposite to a house like this. So again, Dom will come in either as a client or a consultant or as an employee. And this man, right, because he's not a bad person, will say, Dominic, make yourself at home. And Dominic will say, thank you. I believe you mean that because you're not a bad person. But this is not my home. I do not understand this home. I do not know the rules. I do not know how to communicate. I do not know how to build relationships, right? Except if Dom and I start on the same day, I am hitting the ground running. I'm delivering. Dominic has to learn the rules and deliver at the same time. And you know what? Dom may not know some of those rules and may break the rules and get into trouble. And that's going to stick with him for the rest of his career within the space. The expectation of coming into this house and that our organizations are a meritocracy is the furthest thing from the truth. That Dominic's movement from his actual home into this home is huge. Huge. And for all of us who are close in proximity to this white straight man, we'll never understand that. We'll never understand how that affects us. Yet we expect that our organization is about how hard you work and that's how far you'll go. Are you guys ready for the definition of inclusion, right? All inclusion is comfort. How comfortable are you as you, not a version of you, to show up in your house, in this house every single day? And we'll ask everyone in your organization, in your team, how comfortable are you? How comfortable are you? How comfortable are you? And what we know for a fact is this. The further your identity is from the personification of the house, automatically, the less comfortable you're going to be. What we know for a fact is this. The more comfortable, the closer your identity is to the personification of the house, the more comfortable you're automatically going to be. We know this for a fact. And maybe you're saying, but Roy, what is this comfort thing? I don't want my employees to be too comfortable. Let me show you why comfort is important. The more comfortable your people are in your house, the greater their breadth to explore and to excel. Just think about being in a strange person's home or being in your own home. The more comfortable a person is, the safer they feel to speak up. The more comfortable a person is, the more engaged they are. The more comfortable a person is, the greater their courage to try something and to fail, which is the fundamental principle of innovation. The more comfortable a person is, the greater their willingness to ask for more, to ask for help. And the more comfortable a person is, the better one learns. Now, you tell me right here today, if these things are not critically important for talent to grow, for the success of your organizations. They are. You want people to explore and to excel, to speak up, to be engaged, to innovate, to ask for more, to ask for help, to be hungry, to learn. But we never want to talk about inclusion. because we think it's this nice, fluffy thing. We never want to talk about comfort, how this home makes me feel. How this home makes me feel. All inclusion is how this home makes me feel in terms of my comfort level. And like I said, let me reiterate, the closer your identity is to the personification of your house, automatically the more comfortable you're going to be, which means all of those things you're going to tick, 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 tick. The further your identity is from the personification of the house, automatically the less comfortable you're going to be, which means these are going to be quite difficult. So you might see Dominic as less talented than Roy, but it's probably not the case. That's probably just because I feel more comfortable to do all of these things. I mean, think about being in a strange person's home and everyone's about to go for lunch and we all stand up to go get food from the table and you drop a plate, right? Being a stranger in a strange person's home, you drop a plate. That's the last thing you want to do. Everyone looks and you're like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. Now think about what that is like in your organization. You don't want to draw attention to yourself as a stranger in the home, as somebody who's not comfortable. You want to just lay low. You just don't want to rock the boat. You kind of just want to be there in the background, right? And then we say to talent of color and women in our organizations, she's great, but she just doesn't have the leadership capacity. She doesn't have the gravitas. She isn't a good communicator. This is nonsense. This is not because of the individual, but because how the space makes us feel. And for all of the leaders on the call today, this is your responsibility to create more comfort. This is what comfort is not, because maybe saying, Roy, this touchy-feely comfort stuff, do not agree with this. This is what comfort is not. We're not talking about absolute comfort. Not everyone is going to automatically be fully comfortable all the time, right? If I'm a nudist, I don't like to wear clothes, I excel and I innovate when I'm totally naked. That doesn't mean I can come to work every day with no clothes. Sorry. It's not about absolute comfort. It's about relative comfort. It's about relative comforts, right? Not everyone's automatically going to be comfortable, but where the gap's so broad that it's actually creating an inequality of employee experience, right? We're not talking about extrinsic comforts of bean bags and meal vouchers and transport and da-da. We're talking about intrinsic comfort. How this space makes me feel, how this relationship with my manager makes me feel, right? Not extrinsic things. So many times people say, yeah, but we give you so much. We give you so much. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't make me feel anything, right? And then, of course, we're not talking about comfort zones. I'm not saying you must create comfort zones that are a bit like lethargic. No. It's not about comfort zones. It's about feeling internally comfortable. So what are we here to do, right? I'm going to move this, sorry. To wrap up everything so we can actually have some questions. Because I've given a lot of information, right? All inclusion is comfort. And comfort is the new currency of talent. Organizations of the future is no longer going to be about the quality of results. It's really going to start seeing that the quality of results will depend on the quality of our actions, thinking, relationships, and trust. And in a society like South Africa that has historically been built on a foundation of mistrust, our organizations are not exempt. We're starting from a really low base. And that if we want to have organizations that grow and succeed and innovate, we're going to have to work on our trust. And the first place to start is how our organizations make us feel. All inclusion is comfort. So when you're thinking about the skills of the future, it's greater consciousness around these issues, around social issues, around psychology, around feelings. So many times we hear leadership say, I don't care about your emotions. I just need you to show up and you must just be professional. What does that mean, to be professional? It means leave all of your cuck in the car and you must show up sanitized, you must do your work. But that's not how human beings are, right? We don't leave our cuck in the car. You know what we do? We have to push it down. We have to suppress it. And that takes up bandwidth. It takes up energy that we should be putting on the job. Consciousness around these issues. Of course, then understanding history. Let's understand why people feel less comfortable in this house. Let's start looking at our organizations and say, who is the owner of this house? Like, what does space feel like? Talk to me about your history, right? And then, of course, how do we create more comfort? That is my challenge to everyone on this call. And it's not about, if you saying, Roy, I don't understand this comfort thing. It's probably because you are so comfortable in your organization. I always use an example. I say, which one of you thought about what shoes you were going to wear this morning? And usually when we're in the office, a couple of hands go up. And then I say, which one of you have since thought about your shoes since putting them on? And maybe one hand remains up. And I say, why have you thought about your shoes since putting them on this morning? And you know what they say? Because it's uncomfortable. We only know we are wearing shoes when they are uncomfortable. And it's the same thing for you in your organization. You only know about comfort, or rather inclusion or exclusion, when you are uncomfortable. So if you don't really connect with this comfort thing, it's because you're so comfortable. And you know what? That's not here for me to shame you and say, shame on you for feeling comfortable. You should be ashamed of yourself. You must give your comfort over. No. I'm saying how amazing to be comfortable. How incredibly privileged to be comfortable. Now, what we need to do is we need to create. That's it. That you feeling comfortable is such a blessing. Now, I'm calling on you to go create more comfort for more people, right? This inclusion, this is the skill of the future. When we talk about AI and we're talking about fourth industrial revolution, these things are going to make so many jobs redundant. But you know what it's not going to make redundant is our ability to connect and to engage, to inspire and to include. This is the skill set of the future. So when I get invited to do these talks and it's the last session on the day, I say, no, that's okay. For those of you who have stayed, they're going to really, really love it. But this should be the first, because this here is the unlock to sustainable and growing organizations, is how it is we can start rectifying the inequality of employee experience. Because just because we all show up in our organizations in cars and with smiley faces does not mean we're all having the same experience. And that affects how it is we perform, we participate, we are engaged. So my challenge to everyone here today is to go over conversation with your team or your colleague or your whole organization and talk about comfort. How comfortable are you to show up as you, not a version of you in this house every single day? What is it that I do that makes you feel less comfortable? How can I, who's somebody who is comfortable, create more comfort for you? That's what we need. I'm going to stop. I'm going to see if there are any questions, Helen, that you can maybe direct my way. And we can take it from there.
Yes, I think there's probably not words in terms of how the people. So there is a few questions, but I hope you guys have
figured out that approaching conversations around our differences, diversity, inclusion, transformation, with anything other than deep understanding, empathy is incorrect. To approach this in terms of judgment and blame and shame, it's just not going to work. It further entrenches the idea of voicelessness. That really what we need to be doing is, how do we start practicing our voice? How do we start talking about comfort? How do I start talking about my identity in this house, my employee experience, without being like, but why? You look so happy. This is really critical. Ellen?
Yes. Thanks, Roy.
Okay.
I just want to do a sound check. Can you hear me? Okay. There is a few questions, but we are running out of time, but I don't think anybody minds, because it was so amazing to listen to you. I think the one thing, and you have now said, let's start the conversation. So there's a few questions to say, like, I'm not in management, I'm not in leadership, I'm not there, and it's not happening in my organization. What can I do? If you say it's our responsibility. Yeah. So maybe some closing thoughts to say, I'm not up there, I'm down here, but what can I do to drive this forward?
Such a great question, and one we get a lot. And that requires another whole presentation in and of itself. So I'm just going to kind of give you some high-level thoughts.
See you next year.
See you next year. Some high-level thoughts. there, because inclusion and diversity are such sensitive topics, we have to be strategic about how we approach it with leadership, because leadership become very, very defensive about this, right? Because leadership don't like the idea that there is an inequality of employee experience, the classic saying that white people always say, I've got black friends, I've got black friends, I've got a gay uncle. We're always so scared to be called out. So we have to be quite strategic. So really, how do we start looking at our engagement scores? How do we start reading our engagement survey results through an inclusion lens? How do we start leveraging HR to have these conversations? How do we start building a groundswell for a diversity and inclusion committee or a diversity and inclusion forum, right? There is so much research on the benefits of diversity that all we really have to do is put it together and present it. So how do we kind of approach it, particularly for those of us in middle management? We really have to start creating cohorts. So groundswell, finding people who want to do this and to start a forum. We want to have these conversations. This is important and this is why. I think most importantly, how it is we engage leadership has to be, again, in a non-judgment and non-blame. Like, this is going to unlock so much opportunity for us, rather than saying, you guys need to transform because X, Y, Z. Everyone always locates this conversation in the numbers, in the transformation BEE numbers. It's the last 10 minutes of the board meeting. How are numbers doing? Oh, good. Oh, bad. Okay, let's talk about it next. But really, this is so much deeper than that. This is really about talent. So how do you approach this with leadership? Just talk about talent rather than transformation. Say, hey, listen, let's unlock talent. Let's optimize our talent. You know how we do this? We heard this guy, he spoke about comfort. How do we do this? As one strategy.
Okay, great. Roy, we've run out of time. As I said, it's been amazing. I think we're running over 60,000 likes for you. So it's really been amazing. And I'm not sure if you're going to be around in the VIP lounge just for a few more minutes, if anybody wants to connect with you. As I say, I think everybody that stayed for the last session is now so grateful because it's been so insightful. So thank you really very much.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to end of the day for us. A reminder that you have to complete the speaker evaluation form in order to get your CBD hours. We are starting at 8 o'clock tomorrow. And we have a bumper day tomorrow as well. We're going to hear from Stefan van Koller from ERH, which is going to be, I'm sure, very interesting. There's a lot of discussions on integrity. I see that they're going to make it finding a needle in a haystack easy. So please look out for that. So there's also a jam-packed day tomorrow. So and Lizette Kritzinger and Len Kutsia is going to be your hosts. But last and not least, before we end of the day, we have a winner for the Survey Fiesta earphones, and the person's name is Marius van der Merwe. So Marius, if you're still online, congratulations. Just contact Chantel or Zanel from the office to claim your prize. So we're going to end this day. It's been a fascinating day and I've really enjoyed it. Again, just thank you for all the delegates, for all your likes, for your attendance and your energy, and then for all our speakers. Thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock again. Thank you. Bye-bye.